The outpost sat on the edge of a dark, empty sector, a lonely cluster of metal and lights against the black void. The stars flickered coldly, distant and uncaring, while the hum of the station's engines kept a steady rhythm. Inside, the human crew moved about, checking systems and wires, unaware that this quiet day was about to end in chaos. A sudden tremor shook the station. Alarms blared as lights flickered. The crew ran to the observation deck, their hearts pounding. Outside, a shadow eclipsed the stars. A massive ship, black and jagged, landed heavily on the outpost platform. Its landing was not quiet, it slammed down like a mountain-crushing stone. Dust and debris swirled in the airlock vents as the ship settled with a metallic roar. Through the viewport the crew saw them. The pack had arrived. Towering figures in dark, spiked armor, muscles rippling, claws sharp as knives, and eyes glowing like molten fire. Their weapons were enormous, designed to kill anything in a single strike. These were not ordinary warriors. They were bred for war, bred to crush, to dominate, to terrify. The alien's leader stepped forward, a massive creature taller than any human had ever seen. Its armor gleamed under the station lights, etched with symbols that promised death to anyone who dared challenge them. It raised a hand and the entire pack froze, like a single living wall of power. The crew instinctively took a step back, fear twisting their stomachs. "Humans," the leader growled, its voice deep and rough, vibrating through the metal walls of the observation deck. "We have come for obedience. Fail to submit, and you will feel our wrath." The crew exchanged worried looks. Weapons were out in seconds. Pulses charged, rifles aimed, hands trembling. Nobody knew how to fight these creatures, and everyone knew fighting might mean instant death. In the corner, unnoticed at first, the human mechanic worked quietly, his hands greasy from tools. He tightened a bolt, wiped sweat from his brow, and kept his head down. Others whispered, "Why isn't he scared?" They didn't know him as well as they thought. The alien leader stepped closer. One of its warriors, massive and snarling, slammed a fist into the ground. The vibration shook the station. "Resistance is meaningless," the leader roared. "We bring our fiercest warriors. You will obey or you will be destroyed." The crew froze. Their training, their plans, their weapons, all seemed useless in the shadow of such power. Panic threatened to rise, but the human mechanic only tightened the strap on his tool belt. He looked at the aliens, then at his fellow humans. Something inside him didn't panic. Something inside him laughed quietly at the absurdity of the situation. The aliens began to move forward, the ground shaking under their steps. Their armor clanged with every motion, a sound like falling hammers. Each warrior was taller than a door, stronger than any machine, faster than the eye could track. The humans could see the muscles flexing under plates of black steel, the glowing eyes scanning every corner, ready to strike at the slightest hint of defiance. But then the mechanic did something unusual. He stood straight, wiped his hands clean on a rag and walked calmly toward the storage bay. No weapon, no shield, nothing. The crew stared. "Where is he going?" someone whispered. "Is he crazy?" The aliens paused for a moment as if sensing something. Their leader cocked its head, studying the human. The pack's warriors stopped advancing, growling low in the throats, uncertain. Nothing like this had ever happened before. One human, walked toward the unknown while the rest trembled. The mechanic returned, not with a laser rifle, not with explosives, but with something small and strange. A bag of sandwiches, neatly stacked, steaming slightly, wrapped with care. The aliens hissed in confusion, their jaws clicking. The crew gasped. One whispered, "He brought food?" The leader snarled, taking a step forward. "What is this?" it demanded. Its voice shook the walls. "We are here for power, for obedience. This is nothing." The mechanic smiled faintly. "Maybe it's nothing to you," he said. His voice was calm, steady, like he had all the time in the universe. "But sometimes, something small can do more than a sword." The aliens' glowing eyes widened, though they did not understand. The tension was electric. The outpost seemed to hold its breath. The pack had brought their fiercest warriors, the most deadly creatures in the galaxy. And yet, here was a human, unarmed, standing calmly in front of them, carrying sandwiches. For the first time no one moved. No one attacked. Something strange happened. The air seemed lighter. The mechanic set the sandwiches down carefully, adjusting the paper so it looked neat. The aliens tilted their heads, confused. One warrior stepped forward, curious, sniffing the air. The mechanic looked at the pack, then at the crew and said quietly, "Want to see what humans can do?" The crew didn't understand yet, and the aliens didn't either. But in that moment, the rules of the universe began to change. A single human, armed with nothing but sandwiches, was about to challenge a pack bred for war. The stars outside seemed to flicker with excitement. The aliens' massive claws hovered over the sandwiches. Their glowing eyes narrowed, but curiosity flickered in the youngest warrior's gaze. The leader's growl echoed through the observation deck, shaking the metal walls. "What is this trick, human? Do you mock us?" The human mechanic didn't flinch. He set the bag carefully on the floor, kneeling slightly. "No tricks," he said calmly. "Just food. Made for you. I thought you might be hungry after a long journey." The crew stared, unsure whether to laugh or scream. Weapons were still raised, hands shaking, but no one moved. The aliens tilted their heads. The leader's voice was low and rough. "We are warriors. We do not eat like this. We crush our prey. We fight. This is meaningless." The human mechanic smiled faintly. "Maybe. But sometimes even warriors need a moment to stop, to taste something different." A pause followed. Silence filled the room except for the hum of the station. One alien warrior, smaller than the others but still massive compared to a human, stepped forward. He sniffed the sandwiches slowly, cautiously. The aroma seemed unfamiliar. He hissed softly but did not retreat. The others watched him closely, tense. The mechanic crouched, offering the sandwiches carefully. "It's simple. Bread, meat, some greens, a little sauce. Humans make food like this to enjoy, not just to survive. You can taste it and see if you like it." The alien leader's glowing eyes flickered with confusion. "Taste it? This will not feed us as strength feeds us." He sounded irritated, but there was a hesitation now, something that no human had ever seen in him before. The young warrior took a small piece, lifting it clumsily with his claw. He sniffed it again, then cautiously placed it near his mouth. The moment he bit down, his eyes widened and a low growl came, not of anger but of surprise. The flavor was strange, unlike anything in his world. Sweet, salty, soft, and crisp at the same time. A new sensation. The mechanic watched quietly, letting him discover it. Then slowly the others began to lean in, intrigued despite themselves. Their leader growled, frustrated. "This is weakness. You distract us with food?" The human shrugged. "Not distraction. Understanding. Something humans do well." One by one the warriors began to taste. Some hesitated, sniffing, turning their heads. But then carefully they bit, their massive jaws crunching through bread and meat. Eyes that were supposed to strike fear softened slightly. One warrior let out a sound that could almost be called a laugh. Another's glowing eyes blinked in astonishment. The leader's hand tightened over his massive weapon. His warriors were distracted? Not with fear, not with pain, but with taste. He had never seen this before. No alien had ever offered something like this, no human, no creature. He stared at the mechanic, trying to understand. How can this small thing make them pause? The human mechanic smiled, wiping his hands on a rag. Because humans are strange. We use small things to do big things. We use food to make friends, not enemies. To calm a storm, not start one. And sometimes, it works better than any weapon. The crew began to relax slightly, watching in awe. They had feared the pack, feared that the station would be destroyed in minutes. And yet here they were, frozen by something as simple as sandwiches. One of the human engineers muttered under his breath, "This is insane. It can't work." But the others couldn't help smiling. The aliens began talking among themselves, their growls quieter now. They tasted, sniffed, and even smelled the sauces, trying to understand this human ritual. Their youngest warrior looked up at the leader, tail flicking nervously. The leader's glowing eyes narrowed, studying the human. You offered no threat," the leader said slowly. "No blade. No trap. Only food." The mechanic nodded. "Exactly. I offer food. You choose what to do next." Another pause. The tension in the room shifted, but it did not disappear. The aliens were still powerful, still dangerous, still warriors ready for battle. But they were curious now. Confused. Conflicted. A single human, armed with nothing but simple sandwiches, had made them stop and think. One of the crew whispered, almost in disbelief, He's doing it. He's actually working." The mechanic leaned back slightly, relaxed, still keeping his calm. "Warriors respond to strength," he said quietly. "But sometimes they also respond to understanding. And that is something humans are very good at." The leader's growl softened to a murmur. His eyes, still glowing, studied the human mechanic more closely. He realized that strength came in many forms. He had brought the fiercest warriors in the galaxy, expecting fear, obedience, or death. And instead, he found calm, curiosity, and a new kind of power he could not yet measure. For a moment, the whole station seemed to hold its breath. The aliens had arrived to demand submission. The human mechanic had arrived with sandwiches. And for the first time, neither side attacked. The youngest warrior tilted his head, chewing slowly. His eyes met the mechanic's, and for the first time he seemed to understand that humans were unpredictable. Dangerous, not with weapons but with cleverness. With calm. With heart. The leader growled again, softer this time. He did not lower his weapon yet. But his mind was racing, trying to understand this strange human logic. "This is not like battle," he said slowly. "No," said the mechanic. "It's better." The crew watched silently, knowing that something extraordinary was happening. The pack had come for war. And yet, a single human, calm and unarmed, was changing everything. The tension was high, the stakes were real, but one thing was certain. This human was not like the rest. And the aliens were beginning to wonder if they had underestimated humans all along. The young alien warrior chewed slowly, unsure at first, but something in the flavor made him pause. He had tasted many things in his life, meat from other worlds, minerals, bitter roots, but never anything like this. The bread was soft, the meat tender, the sauce sweet and spicy in a way he could not name. It made a strange warmth in his chest, a feeling he didn't understand. The human mechanic watched him carefully, keeping calm. He didn't rush, didn't push. He simply offered more sandwiches, neatly stacked on a metal tray. "Try it," he said gently. "Take what you like." The alien leader snarled, pacing behind his warriors. "This is madness," he growled. "We are warriors. We do not eat like this. We crush, we conquer, we fight. Food does not stop us." "Maybe it does," the mechanic replied softly. "Sometimes understanding is stronger than strength." The leader's glowing eyes flickered with anger, confusion, and something else, curiosity. None of his warriors had ever hesitated before. They were bred to attack first, think later. Yet here they were, distracted, confused, tasting something so simple yet so unexpected. The youngest warrior took another bite, then another. His massive claws handled the sandwich clumsily, but he did not bite them. His eyes, still glowing, softened a little. The warmth in his chest spread, and for the first time he felt a strange connection to this small, unarmed human. He tilted his head, sniffing at another sandwich. The other warriors watching him hesitated. Their instincts screamed to attack, to enforce dominance. But curiosity won. One by one they approached, sniffing the sandwiches, examining them, daring to take a small bite. Their jaws worked awkwardly at first, unsure how to eat, but gradually they began tasting properly. A growl escaped one, not in anger but in surprise. Another made a soft clicking sound, almost like laughter. The leader barked orders, his voice shaking. "Stop. This is not battle. Stop this nonsense." The mechanic shrugged. "I'm not fighting you. I'm sharing. Isn't that better?" The alien warriors paused, confused. Sharing? Humans shared food? They had never seen anything like it. Their worlds ran on strength, on power, on conquest. But here, a tiny, unarmed human was offering them something that mattered more than strength. The youngest warrior looked up at the leader, chewing thoughtfully. His glowing eyes met the leader's, silently asking, "What if this is not weakness?" The mechanic took a step closer, gently holding out another tray. "We humans survive in strange ways. We fight when we must, yes. But we also think, we create, we connect. And sometimes we feed our friends before we fight our enemies." The leader's armor clanged as he moved forward, his massive hands clenched over his weapon. "You dare speak of strength when you offer food? You mock us." "No mockery," the mechanic said. "Just an offer. Taste it. See for yourself." The leader's gaze swept over his pack. They were still tasting, still pausing, still unsure. Some of them had never felt curiosity like this before. Their instincts screamed to attack, yet their senses were telling them something else. Something strange. Something powerful. Slowly, the leader lowered his weapon slightly, watching. The mechanic placed another tray on the floor, carefully arranging the sandwiches. "We humans solve problems in our own ways," he said. "Sometimes with tools, sometimes with words, and sometimes with food. I'm giving you a choice." The aliens tilted their heads, sniffing. Their glowing eyes flickered between the mechanic and each other. None of them understood why this simple act had such an effect, yet none could resist. They tasted again, this time more boldly. A growl escaped one, then a low hum of surprise came from another. The leader's brows furrowed. "This is confusing," he admitted, almost to himself. "Our warriors pause, For food? The mechanic smiled. Sometimes even warriors need a moment to stop, to think, to feel something new. Humans call it enjoyment. The crew behind him whispered in disbelief. He's doing it. He's actually calming them. With sandwiches. The leader growled, slowly lowering his weapon. His massive frame was still imposing, but the tension in the room was shifting. He studied the mechanic carefully. You are not afraid? He asked. Afraid of what? The mechanic replied calmly. You're strong, yes. But you are also curious. And curiosity is something humans understand well. I'm not afraid of your claws or your armor. I'm ready to show you something you've never seen before. The youngest warrior tilted his head, chewing the last bite of his sandwich. His glowing eyes met the mechanic's, and for the first time he seemed to understand something. Something humans carried that no warrior had ever seen. Patience, cleverness, and the ability to surprise. The leader studied his pack. They were quiet now, tasting, sniffing, learning. He realized that strength came in many forms. The humans might be small, fragile, unarmed, but they were unpredictable. That unpredictability made them dangerous. And perhaps, valuable. The mechanic leaned back slightly, calm, smiling faintly. Warriors respond to strength, he said softly. But sometimes they also respond to understanding. That is something humans do very well. The leader growled again, softly this time. He did not attack. He did not give orders. His warriors were still tasting, still learning. He realized something extraordinary. A single human, armed with nothing but sandwiches, had captured the attention of the fiercest warriors he had ever commanded. The outpost was quiet except for the faint hum of the engines. The aliens had arrived expecting submission or destruction. Instead, they had discovered something new, something they could not fight. And the human mechanic had just begun. The young alien warrior looked up at the mechanic, chewing slowly as if trying to understand him. The others were tasting too, some nervously, some cautiously. The air was filled with the smell of sandwiches, warm bread, and sizzling meat, an aroma so foreign yet so comforting. The leader of the pack paced slowly, his glowing eyes fixed on the human. He had never experienced anything like this. Why do you do this? The leader finally asked, his voice deep and low, rumbling through the observation deck. We brought war. We brought death. And you offer food. The mechanic wiped his hands on a rag, smiling faintly. Because sometimes showing care works better than showing strength. Food can calm anger, open minds, and even make friends. The leader's glowing eyes flickered with uncertainty. His warriors, bred to dominate and destroy, were no longer threatening. Some of them even tilted their massive heads curiously, sniffing the sandwiches, tasting more boldly now. One warrior let out a low hum, a sound that resembled laughter. Another clicked his jaws softly, a noise that was almost like a smile. The human crew watched in amazement. They had never thought they would see this. The fiercest warriors in the galaxy, distracted not by firepower but by sandwiches. One engineer whispered, I can't believe this. He's actually making them friendly? The mechanic knelt, offering another tray. Learn. Humans survive not just with weapons but with understanding. You can too. The leader growled softly, frustration mixing with confusion. Understanding is not strength. We are warriors. The mechanic shook his head gently. Strength comes in many forms. You have muscle, armor, and weapons. Humans have something you do not. Patience, creativity, and cleverness. Sometimes those are stronger than anything else. The youngest warrior stepped closer to the human, sniffing again, then taking a bite of another sandwich. His glowing eyes met the mechanic's, and for the first time, he seemed to understand that this human was not afraid. Not of him, not of the leader, not of anything. That confidence, calmness, and care, something he had never experienced, was powerful. The leader's massive hands clenched over his weapon, but he did not attack. His warriors were still eating, still watching. The youngest warrior made a soft sound, almost like a laugh, and the others turned to him in surprise. The leader's glowing eyes widened slightly. He had never heard this from a warrior before. Laughter in the middle of battle was impossible. The mechanic smiled. See? Even warriors can enjoy something new. Even the fiercest can learn to pause. Humans do this all the time. We find ways to survive, to connect, and to turn enemies into friends. The leader studied his pack. They were quiet now, chewing thoughtfully. Their glowing eyes softened, curiosity shining through their normally fierce expressions. They were not afraid nor aggressive, they were learning. Slowly, the tension in the room began to fade. The human crew breathed easier. Some smiled, others laughed quietly. The station, once tense and ready for destruction, felt lighter. The aliens, who had arrived with fury in their hearts, were now confused, curious, and even calm. The mechanic crouched and held out a sandwich to the youngest warrior. "Try this one. You might like it even more." The warrior took it carefully, examining it, sniffing it, then biting. His glowing eyes widened in delight. The leader growled softly, almost in disbelief. "This small human wields power we cannot fight." The mechanic chuckled. "Not power you can fight, no. But influence, yes. We humans influence with kindness, creativity, and courage. That's our weapon." The leader's massive frame shifted slightly. He realized something important. Strength was not only in muscle or weapons. Intelligence, patience, and understanding could change the course of events just as much. His warriors, distracted by sandwiches, had learned to pause. He himself felt a strange respect for this tiny, unarmed human. One warrior leaned on the leader, nudging him with a massive claw. The leader growled softly but did not push him away. He studied the human again, realizing that perhaps humans were not the fragile, weak species he had thought. They were unpredictable, clever, and surprisingly dangerous, not with weapons but with their hearts and minds. The mechanic stood slowly, smiling faintly. Sometimes all it takes is a small gesture to change everything. A meal, a kind word, a moment of understanding. That's what humans do. The leader lowered his weapon completely. His warriors, still eating, looked at him and then back at the human. He realized they were listening now, not to commands but to an example. Something new was happening. Respect. A bond, subtle but real, was forming between human and alien. The youngest warrior made another soft hum of approval, and the leader's glowing eyes softened even more. He looked at the mechanic and nodded slowly. "You are strange, but perhaps not weak." The mechanic smiled faintly. "Not weak at all. And now you have a choice. You can leave with anger or you can leave with understanding. Your choice." The aliens paused, silent. They had come for war, expecting submission or destruction. Instead, they had discovered something extraordinary. One human, armed with nothing but sandwiches, had not only calmed the fiercest warriors, but had made them curious, thoughtful, and even respectful. The human crew could hardly believe it. One whispered, "He didn't just survive, he changed them." The mechanic looked around at the crew and the pack. Sometimes strength isn't about fighting. Sometimes it's about connecting. And humans, we are very good at connecting. The leader's massive frame shifted, and for the first time, he nodded in acknowledgement. The tension in the room melted further. The pack had brought warriors to intimidate and conquer. The human mechanic had brought sandwiches, and in doing so, he had created a moment no alien had ever experienced before. A bond, fragile but undeniable. And that bond was only the beginning. The aliens stood quietly, their glowing eyes still fixed on the human mechanic. The air, once thick with tension, now seemed lighter. The pack had come expecting fear, obedience, or blood. Instead they had found sandwiches. And a human who refused to panic. The youngest warrior licked the last traces of sauce from his claws, looking at the mechanic with something like admiration. The leader, massive and powerful, lowered his weapon completely. He studied the human carefully as if weighing every move, every word. Finally he spoke. "You are different. Your species, unpredictable." The mechanic shrugged, wiping his hands on a rag. "We humans survive in unexpected ways. We fight when we must, yes. But we also think, create, and connect. And sometimes, we do it with sandwiches." The crew laughed quietly, some still in disbelief. They had feared the pack, believed the outpost would be destroyed in minutes. And yet here they were, alive, laughing, and witnessing something extraordinary. The leader took a step back, his massive claws clicking on the metal floor. "Our warriors, they respect you. Not for your strength. Not for your weapons. For this gesture. This understanding." The mechanic nodded. "Exactly. Strength isn't always measured by power. Sometimes it's measured by cleverness, patience, and the ability to surprise. Humans have a lot of that." A murmur ran through the alien pack. Their warriors, still munching sandwiches, looked at each other in disbelief. Their leader's eyes softened as he watched them. "Perhaps we underestimated humans." The youngest warrior stepped forward, nudging the mechanic gently with his massive claw. The mechanic smiled and patted him lightly. The gesture was small, but it carried meaning. Trust, respect, understanding. The warrior clicked his jaws softly, something like a human smile. The human crew could hardly believe what they were seeing. They had trained for combat, for escape, for survival. And now they realized something even more important. Humans were extraordinary not because of weapons or armor, but because of their minds and hearts. The leader finally turned to his pack. "We came for war," he said slowly. "We leave with respect. Perhaps even friendship. Your species is unlike any we have encountered." The mechanic smiled faintly. "That's humanity for you. Small, fragile, but clever. Surprising. Dangerous in ways no one expects." The aliens began to step back toward their ship. The youngest warrior looked over his shoulder, still chewing thoughtfully. The leader's glowing eyes lingered on the mechanic for a long moment. Then, with a low rumble, he nodded. "We will remember this, human. Your species is not weak. Perhaps it is stronger than we imagined." The human crew let out quiet cheers, though still careful. They had survived, but more than that, they had witnessed a moment no one would forget. A moment when a single human, armed with nothing but sandwiches, had changed the hearts of the fiercest warriors in the galaxy. The mechanic bent down, packing up the remaining sandwiches carefully. "It's always good to leave some behind," he said softly. "You never know when someone might need them." The crew laughed, some shaking their heads in disbelief. "He didn't just survive," one whispered. "He taught them something." The leader's massive ship slowly lifted off the platform, dust and sparks swirling as it departed. The pack's warriors looked back at the outpost, then at the mechanic, before disappearing into the black void of space. Silence returned to the observation deck, but it was different now. It was lighter, filled with awe, respect, and a hint of wonder. The human crew gathered around the mechanic, clapping him on the back, cheering softly. "You did it," one said. "You calmed them. With sandwiches." The mechanic smiled faintly, shrugging. "Sometimes the simplest things have the biggest effect. Food, patience, humor, and a little confidence. That's all it takes." One engineer leaned close, whispering, "I guess humans really are different." The mechanic nodded. "Exactly. Unpredictable, clever, and always ready to surprise. That's what makes us human." The crew laughed, a mix of relief and admiration. They realized something important. The galaxy was full of powerful beings, fierce warriors, and threats no one could imagine. But humans had something unique. They were small, fragile, and ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in ways no alien could predict. The youngest warrior's hum echoed in the mechanic's memory, a strange sound of approval, like a connection had been made. The leader's words repeated in his mind, "Your species is stronger than we imagined." The mechanic leaned back against the console, exhausted but smiling. The station was safe. The pack was gone. And for the first time, the crew truly understood what it meant to be human, clever, bold, and able to win battles without firing a single shot. Later, as the crew celebrated quietly, the mechanic ate the last leftover sandwich, smiling to himself. He had changed the outcome of the day, not with weapons, not with armor, but with something far more powerful: empathy, patience, and human ingenuity. And somewhere out there, the pack's warriors would remember this small human. They would remember that strength could come in many forms. That even the fiercest warriors could be disarmed by something as simple as kindness and a sandwich. The stars outside the outpost twinkled quietly, distant and indifferent, yet for one small human, one small crew, and one alien pack, the universe had changed just a little. And in that moment, the mechanic smiled, knowing the galaxy had seen just a hint of what humans were truly capable of.